We have here in the stand today a Tarmac SL8 Pro and a DI2 configuration. We are now, the customer went out and bought all this stuff for himself, a full titanium bolt conversion kit. Everything from bottle cage bolts to front derailleur hanger bolts to brake bolts to titanium master link changes to expander plugs to handlebar pinch bolts. We have a whole drivetrain bolt system right here as well, from limit screws, the derailleur hanger bolt, and we even have all of the brake bolts as well. They're gonna be swapping over. So we're gonna weigh this bike in now to see what this bike weighs in as stock, and then we'll weigh out afterwards to see how much weight we actually change. Obviously money goes into it. It's just to add some flair to the bike. I mean, he really just wanted to give it a little bit of look. But let's go ahead and see what this thing weighs in now, and then we'll go ahead and weigh it afterwards to figure out what this thing's gonna weigh out and see how much we saved. All right, so as is stock right now, we're at 7.49 kgs. And in pounds and ounces, 16 pounds. And looking to be at 8 ounces. That is with pedals, 8 ounces. Cages, out front mount, and Garmin Vario. The only thing we're gonna be swapping out here is drivetrain bolts. So let's go ahead and figure this out. All right, so first things first, we're gonna be removing this hanger and this knuckle from here, replacing it with a direct mount hanger, removing that derailleur bolt, and putting that in there. All right, so here are the stock parts here. What we're removing, 31 grams. We're putting on a direct mount with a bolt, and also this knuckle bolt as well, 19 grams. So we're already saving 11 grams. There's a stock derailleur going on here. We're going to be replacing pulley wheel bolts, and then derailleur hanger, limit screw adjustments and B tensioner. So 1, 2, 3. 241. So we replace jockey wheel pulleys, limit screws, and B tensioner screw. Okay. We're coming at 237 for the total. All right, so next up, we're gonna be removing these chainring bolts. We have 4 of them here, and we'll see what the weight is. All right, so 4 chainring bolts. 6 grams, 5 grams. Stock pinch bolts for the crank, 10 grams. 7. All right, here comes a preload nut from the crank. I got a feeling this one's gonna be heavier because that's plastic. That's pretty light. So 3. And here's a titanium alternative one. 4. I honestly, I would assume that, but this is a metal and that's plastic. Pinch bolts, preload, chainring bolts. Now for mounting bolt for front derailleur, and also derailleur hanger bolts back here. So I have to remove this and then install the derailleur hanger bolts. So front derailleur mounting, hanger bolts, 4 grams. Again, I don't think these are going to be a big difference, but 2 grams. Next one is the bolts on here. This one's not going to be that big because I've done bolts before. And these are water bar bolts, pretty lightweight, but let's go ahead and see. So stock bolts, 5 of them, 5 grams, 5 bolts. Oh, 4 grams, there you go. Now we got top cap and pinch bolts for our stem on here. Titanium. 8 grams. And stock bolts, 10 grams. They sent out a steer plug. So this is the plug that goes inside of here. But one, the head's too big, and two, the thread doesn't match the same pitch on there. It's a little bit too wide, so that won't work. Next, we have the seat post clamp rails, this bolt and the bolt right here. So let's go ahead and weigh them, find out what it is. We're gonna mark the saddle as well to make sure we get the same measurement. Seven grams. All right, so seat post bolts, 7 grams.
The calmer you are, the better you think.
You got that on though.
What can I say? I am wrong.
Now for the fun part, the brake calipers and shifter hoods. We're gonna start with the rear brake and just start going at it. All the bolts I remove, I'll put back on with these bolts. So we have here the rear brake mounting bolts. We have here the nut for the hose, the lock ring pin for the pads. Those are for the actual hoods themselves, for the clamps. That's for the retaining side of the clamp. These are like some plugs. These are like the things that hold the caliper together. So it should be fun. Here's the weight of all the bolts we're removing from the caliper. The rear brake bolts that hold the caliper. This is where a good amount of weight is. If you're gonna upgrade anything, these are really heavy. 14 grams. I think these are like 7. Yeah, so that's half the way right there. So that's a good investment right there. All right, so some issues with this piece for the hose for brake caliper. The holes are too small to fit over the hoses. They don't fit inside there. This is a stock Shimano hose. You can see how wide that hole is. And you can see how skinny that one is. It doesn't fit on over it. So I'm gonna talk to the customer. That's the only thing we can't change on there. All right, so here is your remainder bolts. 17 grams, but we do have to subtract the other one was 11. We do have to subtract this right here from it because we weren't able to use that. So it doesn't even register, so cool. So 8 grams. All right, so this is what the final caliper looks like. We got that bolt, that bolt, that bolt, and then also your pin through as well, and the bolts on the bottom. This is how stock one looks like, so time to do the same thing to this one. All right, so last but not least, it's finally the brake lever. We got lock ring nut, bleed port screw, and then also your screw for the hose as well. I already did this one, so stock, we are at 9 grams. Titanium, 6 grams. So we save 3 grams per shifter. And then after that, we should be all good except for the titanium quick link right there. So once we get all that done, oh, and the seat post wedge clamp is gonna get replaced if that fits in there. And then we'll be all good and get a final weight of everything. But so far, looks pretty cool. Little pops of color, little pops of color, little pops of color, pops of color, pops of color, pops of color. It's pretty dope. Also, a quick shout out. This guy's an absolute legend. He's got Lego heads on top of his valve covers. That's pretty cool. I like that. So brakes are all finished and converted. Last one we have is the seat post clamp right here. So this titanium bolt weighs in at 4. And then stock bolt comes in at 7. So saving 3 grams right there. All right, well, then the last part we have to swap over is the master link that comes on the stock Ultegra chain. I don't see this one. This has grease on it, so keep that in mind. 3 grams. And these say these are titanium ones. 2 grams. Probably give or take that grease coming off there, probably about the same. All right, so this is the final product of everything done. C-clamp bolt, front derailleur, water bottle cages, rear derailleur, brake caliper, stem bolt, pinch bolts, steer cap plug, and then also the shifter hoods. 7.41 kgs. The bike before weighed 7.49, so you're saving about 80 grams, give or take. Weighing now, 16 pounds, 5 ounces. I don't know exactly how much the customer paid for it, but obviously he did it more for the flair of it than anything else. But about 80 grams for the titanium hardware. So if you guys were ever wondering, now you guys know.
Whose bike is that? Over here.
Come on, back. Come on, come on, come on, back.